There's a different kind of company that you don't really hear a lot about.
Yeah.
Particularly people who've come out of the intelligence community. They've left NSA or CIA, and they create their own companies. And what they do is they have technology that they've developed that could be considered dual use, but they frame it as defensive tech. And so it's usually contracted to US Cyber Command, which is really the place where a lot of this offensive cyber normally happens. And they can deploy it for defensive or offensive means. But the fact is, once that contract is signed and the tech is handed over, the company does not then know what the government does with the technology. Yeah.
And these are privately held companies, not publicly traded companies that our listeners own shares of right now.
I don't think so, but you never know. Yeah. I think that definitely this is the signal that this is sending is to industry that there's an opportunity here. So a lot of people are very excited about it. Some of them are extremely gung-ho, but others are quite reticent because it does get rid of that gray area where they can say that they're developing defensive use versus offensive use tech. But also because, if they do have shareholders or investors, for some people, they could be very leery about getting on the wrong side of that. There's a lot of risk inherent in the activity and in the operation. And so we still don't know any of the details, but there's been speculation, and I've been tracking this since April this year. So there's been a lot of conversations and chatter about what this would look like and what that posture is.
Well, we've got a lot of questions for you here. For starters, is the United States government not capable of doing this work? Do we have the brain power? Do we have the resources to do this on our own? Or is this clearly telling us that we don't?
We have the brain power. I don't know that we have the scale. And that is something that people who have left government will tell you, as well as people who are in government. And we saw this in the previous administration, the cyber workforce gap of 500,000. The new National Cyber Director, Sean Cairncross, thinks now it's closer to 1 million short. And this is something where industry is saying we can bridge the gap. And that's really, you're dealing with adversaries, for example, China, which denies a lot of the cyber attacks, or Russia, which don't really see a divide between military and civilian, and they just throw everything they can or they want to at different targets. And this is combating not just all those nasty ransomware attacks that we've been reporting on for so long, but also the nation state activity, which is the espionage, the sabotage, the intelligence gathering, the IP theft. So it's a whole of house approach. Very, very aggressive.
Wow, this is fascinating. Speak to us about the legality of this. Now, I guess if the companies don't know what you're doing with the software, that's the whole point, right? Because technically what you're describing is a new class of defense contractor. Are you not? Wouldn't Congress have to have say in that?
I think that we know for sure there's going to be at least one executive order once this strategy is announced sometime next month. But no one I've spoken to says that that's going to be enough. There needs to be legislation, because that EOs can obviously turn on a dime, be cancelled, et cetera. So that doesn't really give anyone any kind of real legal protection. It doesn't spell out or codify authorities or protections for people who want to be doing this. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Hill takes it. And I know I've been reporting that there have been obviously investigations into what that policy would look like. But everyone that I've spoken to about this, people who have been very senior in the intelligence community, have come back to me and said the devil is in the details. We don't know what it looks like yet. So so we're still waiting.
Well, to that end, you write that a new national cyber strategy to be released by the Office of National Cyber Director will outline this plan that you're talking about. I'm picturing you in some sort of dark parking lot being handed a copy of. Have you seen this draft? What's it going to say, and when's it coming out?
There are 6 pillars under the strategy.
You've seen this draft.
It's 5 pages long.
It's 5 pages. Okay.
And it's being shown and shared to industry, think tanks, former government officials, former security officials, to get their take, get their feedback. Some of the wording may change, but the substance of it is going to be the same. And the thing that everyone was struck by was how short it was, but also that the first pillar in these 6 pillars was the offensive cyber and, quote unquote, unleashing the private sector.
Wow. So what do our allies think about this? And are they going to get in on this game? Will they start hiring These same companies?
So some of the conversations that I have had with folks overseas is that they have been really waiting for something like this. And it's going to be really interesting to see how the US threads this needle legally and what example or precedent that will set for its allies. I have people in the UK who are very keen to see this happen, people
Really?
in Japan who are very keen to see this happen, people in Europe. But what it does say is that there's a sense of urgency. There's a sense of necessity of scale, and that everyone sort of feels like they've just been taking these hits for so long that they really want to start pushing back and doing it in a very aggressive way.
Does this create a new family of digital blackwaters?
That's the risk, and I think that that's why everyone's waiting to see what the legality is, because right now, the way that it's sort of described to me is when private contractors go and work for an agency, they share the same keyboard, right? And now, under this new policy,
That's a great line.
potentially they could be working off different keyboards, and they may even know who they're targeting. Or they could say, go into this electricity grid and take this actor out of the infrastructure, like just out of the networks, get them out. So they'll know. They're not stupid.
Correct.
And so
hence the black water.
but it also exposes them. So if I'm going after you and I've seen you in like a network and you see me and you're like, you know what, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to burn your entire architecture.
Oh my God.
So it does. So it has this. There's almost a kinetic response to this, but it also can. The fear that I've heard from a lot of industry CEOs who do have shareholders is the fear of people who are already on Putin's bad list, possibly being indicted or extradited if their companies are known to be carrying out this sort of activity for the government. So this.
I can just imagine the congressional hearings a couple of years from now, right?
But it really tells you that there's so much that we don't know, but at the same time, there's so much that everyone is talking about. People have been looking at this in so many different ways. The idea of letters of marque, which is what privateers operated under during one of the American wars in the 1800s. I can't remember the date exactly, but what it allowed them to do was the idea that they go in, they disrupt the British Navy or whoever, and they take the booty, right? As in maybe this happens now. That has been dismissed by a lot of the experts, but a representative in the House has introduced a resolution regarding letters of marque. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
This is absolutely... So this is the future of warfare.
Definitely one side of it.
Mike,
Cyber is a tool.
We spend so much time talking about spending billions of dollars. It's the first $1 trillion defense budget this year for all of this hardware that will purportedly be used in a war with China someday. When you're talking about a whole different level here, are these companies prepared to meet these requests? Because I'm guessing these would be monster contracts with the Pentagon.
There is $1 billion in the One Big Beautiful Bill under Indo-PAC-COM that is meant for offensive cyber operations.
Okay.
The money's there, and industry. It's going to be interesting to see who steps up and who.
I'll bet you they're getting ready now.
Those conversations are happening.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm being told that they're happening, and everyone is waiting to see what the contracts look like. So we don't know yet. We have to see.